Go.
My name is Katerina Leonti, and I bought a house in 1996 at a beach in the Jacksonville area. I had never owned a house before. I was 44 years old, so I put all my eggs in one basket to get this house. And I found it while I was driving around Jacksonville Beach looking for houses. And I just happened upon this place. I turned down the street and there it was. There was a man outside on the front porch and he was painting the iron railing on the front porch. And I felt an immediate connection with the house. I felt like this was my house. I kind of had a deja vu moment with it. So I walked up to the porch and I asked the man, you know, if I could see the house. He said he had just put the sign out in the yard and he wasn't supposed to show it without the real estate agent, but he thought he'd bend the rules a little and he'd show me the house. So I walked in and like I said, there was immediate connection. I knew this was my house. And I walked around. It was a very cozy little house. I think the living area is something like 1,800 square feet. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath place. I didn't feel anything out of the ordinary in the house. It was like love at first sight with it. So that day while I was walking around, I asked him, I said, I'd like to have the house. And he said, I'd like you to have it. And I thought it was odd that he didn't dicker about the price, or, it was only on the market one day, and he was telling me that he was anxious to sell it. He wanted to move to his retirement home up north. So I said, great. And I agreed to buy the house right there. That evening, the real estate agent, I called her, and the real estate agent told me that he had paid the points on the place so I could get into the house even less expensively. It was going to be a dream mortgage for us. So I agreed to it, and we waited a few weeks for them to move out and to sign the paperwork, and it was all ours. My husband and I walked in, did a walkthrough in the house because he hadn't even seen it before I decided to buy it. So I was kind of nervous about that I'd agreed to buy a house he hadn't even seen. But, he said, well, if you feel that this is your house, go for it. Let's get it. So the first day that, after we had closed, I brought the kids in to see it, my 2 stepchildren. And immediately when my daughter walked through the house, as soon as she got inside the door, she said to me, did someone die here? And I thought that was a really, really odd question. And I said, no one died here. Neither my husband nor I believe in ghosts or anything like that. And so I just felt, she was in her teens, her mid-teens, and that just that's how kids are. So they picked out their bedrooms, and Sharon picked this room that is my art room now. Sharon's an adult now, and she's on her own. So she picked this room, and immediately we started having problems. She came screaming out of the room and said that she saw a man standing by her bed, and it looked like he was going to float through her. And I calmed her down. I said, I'll go back to your room. You were just having a bad dream. There's no such things as ghosts. So, this is a new place. You're kind of nervous about, staying in a new place. So, these things just happen. So I came back in the bedroom with her, and I sat with her, and she fell asleep. This kept happening. She would tell me that lights were blinking in the room, and she saw balls of lights in the room and around other parts of the house, and that the lights were going on and off by themselves. And I know that I would tell both kids, you need to turn the lights out when you're done in the room, and their faucet would go on in their bathroom, and I would, tell them, listen, you're going to get punished if you don't learn to turn your faucet off because you're really wasting water. And they would say, well, we weren't in there, we did turn it off. And I just say, listen, I just want you to turn the faucets off. When you're done using the water, I want you to turn the lights out before you leave the room. And they tell me, we weren't in that room, we didn't turn the lights on. As time progressed, my daughter would tell me more things that she saw, a man walking through the house, or she saw, she couldn't sleep. Her bed was vibrating, and when she would work at her desk would vibrate, and I just couldn't believe this sort of thing. So I would just say, well, there's nothing wrong with the house. It's a nice house, it's a pretty house, and, it's ours. We can't move out of here. So, this was way before the time of paranormal shows on television and ghost hunting and that sort of thing. And my daughter, eventually, she graduated and she moved out on her own. My son graduated and he moved out on his own. And I took over this room as my art room. And before I took over the art room, as we had lived here through the years, I started hearing things. I would hear my name called, and there's no one in the house with me. I thought someone came in, one of the neighbors, or that my husband was home early, or one of the kids were here, and I would come out from the bedroom and answer them, and no one's here. Many times I would hear the front door slam, and then I would think one of the kids is here, somebody's sick, or, my husband had problems at work and he's home early. So I would yell, hey, what's going on? And I'd come out of the bedroom. It would usually happen when I'm in another room and I'm not in the main room. And I would come out and no one's here. And I would think, well, maybe they, walked to one of the other rooms, and I would walk around and no one was here. And I heard the door slam. I heard footsteps to the middle of the room, to the middle of the Florida room. And that's when I would answer. I would hear people in the kitchen getting snacks. I'd hear the dishes rattling, and I would hear drawers and things like that. And, I'd kind of yell out from the bedroom, hey, what's going on, or you want me to help you with a snack or something? And I'd go out, and the house is dark. There's no one there. I saw someone standing in my driveway one day. My daughter was over and we were having lunch, and I was fixing some flowers on the table. And I looked out the dining room window, and there was a man, looked like he was wearing sort of like a pioneer type outfit. And he had a heavy leather bag over his one hip. Looked like some kind of a hunter. And I was really taken aback. I just almost lost my balance there at the table, and I looked again and he had disappeared. I would hear footsteps upstairs, walking from one end of the house to the other. And I would tell my husband. He didn't, of course, believe in ghosts, so he would say, no, you're hearing things. Then I saw the Ghost Hunters started their show, and I saw one of their shows, and I actually heard EVP. And it kind of made me wonder about this. And one night I went over to the neighbor's house. There was an eclipse going on, and she was fiddling around with her telescope, and I went over to help her with it because I had a telescope similar to it. The kids had one. And there was a guy unpacking some stuff from the trunk of his car, and I kind of just said, hey, how are you tonight? What are you up to? And he said, I'm a paranormal investigator. And I said, a what? And he said, paranormal investigator. And my neighbor, she stood up from fiddling with the telescope, and she said, didn't you know this neighborhood's haunted? And I said, what? and she said, the neighborhood's haunted. She said, don't tell me you've never seen anything strange at your house. And I kind of said, no, I didn't want to admit to it. I didn't want somebody to throw a net over me. And she said, yeah, she said, these houses are haunted here. She said, did you ever see the glowing mist go down the middle of the street between the houses? And then she told me that the neighbor across from me, their bed would shake and when they would try to sleep at night, and the children were afraid of one of their rooms, then the woman heard voices when there wasn't anyone there. And she said, that they hear voices and that their furniture moves around. And, wow, I found it all kind of unbelievable. So, a few weeks went by, and I heard that Dustin Perry from Ghost Hunters International was here in St. Augustine. It was on the 11 o'clock news. So I said to my husband, want to go to St. Augustine? We're only about half an hour away. And he said, sure. And so we went down there, and they were done with their ghost hunt at the St. Augustine Lighthouse, and Dustin was sitting on the porch. And I said to him, I wanted to ask you some questions. He said, sure, what can I help you with? And I said, I don't know if this is my imagination or not. I'm beginning to think I have early onset Alzheimer's, or, I never heard of a woman my age getting schizophrenia, but somebody's calling my name in the house. Things move on shelves. Things are misplaced and show up in odd places. And he said, well, I don't think it's your imagination. I told him some other things that were happening. So he sent a group in. They are called Cape Paranormal out of Orlando. And they came up and they investigated the house. And then it was confirmed that the house is haunted. They got EVPs. They had things move. They had the television go on by itself, things like that. So I've been told and I've read that if they're human spirits, you can't really get rid of them if they don't want to leave. We just decided to learn to live with it. So we try to keep things happy and healthy in the house, and we always try to have a good attitude about it. I try not to be afraid. Sometimes they can be scary, but mostly, just like my neighbors in the other houses who have the same situation, we've all just learned to live with it. So I've put cameras up in our house. I opened a website, hauntedartist.com, and I let the cameras run in the art room 24/7, and in the evenings from 11 p.m. to 6 o'clock a.m. I have cameras and microphones running so that people can kind of armchair ghost hunt. And since that time, it's been 2 or 3 months since we opened this up, I am finding out that so many things happen in this house that I was never aware of at night. That things like a few days ago, there was a lover's quarrel in my art room, and there was crying and stomping of feet and boots walking around and people yelling at each other and things like this that I didn't know went on while I'm sleeping. Other things, we've seen the front door open by itself. I've gotten up several mornings and walked out into my living room, and my front door is wide open, and I'm wondering what's going on. So I've actually found out that there's way more to this house than I ever imagined since I put those cameras in. Thank you.